Welcome back to another show of Sports Inc. We're getting deeper in the playoffs. Second round coming up. Along with Mark Gregory, I'm Scott Taylor, and saw some solid football action last week. Bolingbrook passes the test, and they're moving on. And we got 6 of our 9 schools moving on this week. You surprised by that high of a number?
I am. We thought 4 was in for sure. But no, I am. I'm not the 2 teams I think that surprised us.
We weren't that surprised.
Right, the teams that we picked against because of who they're playing. We both said wouldn't be shocked if they're still alive, and they're still alive. So,
yeah. Well, 6 teams very nearly was 7. Could have been 7. I would love to see that Bennett and Plainfield North. I think that would be a doozy of a game. Unfortunately, the refs gave that game to Oswego. I was out there, and folks, we don't like promoting other people's work or anything like that, but look online and you can go search around and you can find a photo of a horrible call in that game. And on top of that, you can see, Plainfield North just got hosed on several calls, and this goes out to anybody that's watching. It's a ref, it's a fan, anything like that. You have to be professional in your job. And in that game, there was stuff being said on the sidelines, stuff being done by refs on the sidelines that should not be done in a high school game, college game, pro game, pee-wee game. It should not be done. Refs have to stay professional. The refs basically gave that game to Plainfield North. Horrible calls. I thought Plainfield North handled themselves well in the defeats. It's a tough situation, but a clear catch for the guys. Well, you saw there.
Oh, I saw the video.
He was easily 1.5 yards in bounds, and the ref calls him out of bounds. Last play of the game. We still don't know. Not a good camera angle by my camera that we have on our website. You can kind of tell him diving out. Looks like his feet were in. Maybe his body was out of bounds. So one of those Des Bryant kind of plays that could go either way. So I'm not gonna cringe on that one. But throughout the whole game, it was just Plainfield North getting hosed.
Let me ask you a question. What is it about Plainfield North? This isn't the first time that they've got the screw job. Let's go back to baseball last year, where I've been a baseball official now for 25 of my 36 years on this earth. I've been doing a lot of baseball games, a lot of high-level baseball games, and then I saw something, the worst hose call, the worst intentional call I've ever seen in my life, where an umpire could not even see the second balk he called to balk that run in, and they got hosed there completely. They got screwed here, and you know what? I'm sorry. There's only one thing in common. Only one thing in common, and that's the fact that there's a Darlington on the sidelines. He's the head baseball coach. He's the assistant football coach. Those refs still hate his dad from when he was in Morris, and they still take him out. IHSA, call me up. I don't care if you get mad at this. Somebody's screwing somebody here, and it ain't right. And I don't know. I'm not blaming the IHSA because they assign the refs. They don't know their agendas, but somebody's got an agenda out there, and it's to go after this man because of his dad. They didn't like him, which personally I want to record saying I love the man. He was a great guy, a great coach, and a great thing for the community. But people didn't like him, and there's people out there who screw this team because of him. I firmly believe that.
This might turn into a little segment where I have to do picks later because now that we're on this box, I will have a column out on this going out. Whether I do it on lack of appropriate officiating to practices or about Plainfield North in general. Because the only thing you can blame the IHSA about is Plainfield North has had 3 playoff games in their careers, in their history. They played. There were 7. All 3 times they would come in 7-2, I believe. The first year, I think there was 7-2 as well. 7-2 at St. Rita. Okay, 4-5 matchup against St. Rita. I don't know about that one, but okay. Next year, 7-2 at Glenbard West, 8-1. Best 8-1 team you'll ever see. That's garbage. This year, 7-2 at 8-1 Oswego team, beat them 35-7. We talked last week about how last 2 times they did themselves in with a non-conference loss. They shouldn't have lost, but the IHSA is doing them no favors here. Whether it's just a coincidence because there's a lot of good teams in 7A, I can see.
If they were 8-1, they probably got 9-0 Lincoln Way East.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows how they think about this? But regardless of the fact is, they are getting hosed in these games, and it's like they have a golfer playing for a state championship and somebody calls a 2-stroke penalty on an 18th hole.
Right.
Or some tennis kid, some girls win a tennis state title, and all of a sudden they call out a line judge in this last game, and the line judge just calls everything out on Plainfield North. It's like, what else is going to go wrong? I'm about to go to a volleyball game tonight, in the sectional game, and you're wondering if the volleyball refs are going to screw Plainfield North over. And it's just something of what's going on right now. It's clear when you're hearing words on the sidelines, when there's a Darlington name on the sidelines, an old coach's name on the sidelines, and they're talking about it on the sidelines.
From the referees.
From the referees to the referees, whichever. I know it was the guy holding the signs from Plastigo that was saying his name. Well, I know the referee responded, whether what he said his name or not, I couldn't hear that part, but it was talking to the refs, and referees were having conversations about it. So regardless to what
I think you talk about Oswego definitely don't like it because those old Morris teams, when they were on the conference, used to mount the floor with Oswego.
Yeah.
So of course they don't like them.
It's also wrong if you're a referee, the head referee, who you're supposed to be in control of the game, you're supposed to be behind the offense, and you go over to the sideline and ask the coach if you got something to say to him. If he's got something to say to you. How wrong is this? I mean, as an umpire, would you go? Well, you probably would because you're like that. But is it appropriate for an umpire to go out there? So you got something to say to me, coach?
When the game's over with, I'm 6 foot, 300 pounds. Usually got a big beard. I'm very noticeable on a field. You know what? When the game's over with, if people can't even remember who was out there, can't remember me as a noticeable person, that's when I know I did my job right. When they can take a noticeable guy and forget who was out there, that's how you know that you did a good job. And you should not be part of the game. You shouldn't have a factor in the game. And I'll tell you right now, I say I'm 300-pound big guy. There's a lot of these side judges in football that I don't care. Maybe if they're not even trying to screw, but they're too dang fat to do this job. I'm sorry, they're too fat. When those balls are thrown 40 yards down, high school kids pass the ball now. When they're 40 yards downfield, that guy's at the line of scrimmage. He can't run down that fast to see where that ball's caught. Because they're just so stinking fat nowadays that these referees, and they put the fat guys on the outside and they can't run down there. I've seen kickoffs. I've seen kickoffs where the guys caught the ball on his knee, which in high school obviously that's. Where the ref can't get down there fast enough to see that, and the guy kicks up and goes 30 yards. He should have been down on a 4, but he's too fat because he can't get down there. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't do the job because I'm too fat to do it. These guys should realize you're too fat to do it. You should get somebody else.
I know for sure I will not, and I know a lot of Plainfield North fans will not forget the side judge in that game. Normally, the side judge on your side of the field.
He was fat too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a little.
I see the picture. Dude, you're fat. That's what a fat guy calling you fat. You're fat.
When you watch football games, you tend to make plays. You tend to throw the deep ball to the side of your side of the field because you're tend to getting the penalties. If you throw a deep ball, you're better chance of pass interference when the ball is thrown towards your sidelines because you're having your coaches into the ears of the ref, and the ref on that side normally gives you the benefit of the doubt. This guy took a purpose of calling every call on his side of the field against Plainfield North because the Plainfield North bench was right there. I'd never seen that before.
And they couldn't be in his ear because he's too fat to get down there fast enough to be in his ear.
So, I mean, it was brutal. They say, my closing line of my story is going to say, you watch the Green Bay Packers Seattle Seahawks game for all these people to watch it. The last line that John Gruden said leaving that game was, leaving this game, I don't have a good feeling about this game. It just doesn't sit right with me. I think those are exact quotes that John Gruden said. It doesn't sit right with me. Leaving that field Friday night, it didn't sit right with me. It felt dirty. It felt something bad had happened and something wrong had happened. And it's a shame for the high school kids because no matter what happens, you can have it out for a coach, a current coach, a former coach, an AD, anything. You don't do that to the kids.
I completely. I've gone into games. I've gone into games where I've had coaches I just absolutely hated. I've had coaches where I hated. That coach says a word, I'm putting him in the dugout. That coach says 2 words, I'm caging him the whole game. He says 3 words, I'm yanking him. Okay, but my strike zone ain't gonna change because of him. I might not like the coach, and I may not give him any leeway to chirp at me because he's chirped a lot over the years, and so I may go in there with an intent to restrain him from what he says to me and talks to me. But you don't change the calls. You don't change the strike zone, the safe out calls. In football, you don't call holding on a guy's hand because you hold him. You don't call out of bounds was inbounds. You don't change the calls because you don't like the coach. If you don't like the coach, Tim Kane's a guy who he pushes that envelope when he's out
He's a
12 years on
fiery
12 years
coach.
on the field. If you don't like that out of him, or you don't like his staff or whatever, and you want to tell him right in the beginning, the first time he takes a step on the field, boom, flag, sideline warning. Give it to him right away. If you don't like him for that reason, and you want to hit him with that right away, and you want to keep him out of his game as far as coming out there to talk to you, talk to his kids, and you want to keep him back 3 years on the sideline, I have no problem with that if you've had problems with him in the past. Okay? But to make the calls blatant, again, now you're hurting the kids and you're changing the outcome of the game. You want to, if you want to restrain a coach from the beginning because you don't like him, I can accept that. I've done it. But don't change the way the game, result of the game.
No, and you watch the whole game, and the back judge was basically the only judge calling things against. I remember a play where Kurt Palaniuk was knocked out of bounds. Back judge throws a flag. He goes, confers with the side judge on the Plainfield North sidelines, and they pick up the flag. They pick it up. I mean, come on. There's another play where there was intentional grounding called against Plainfield North. The back judge says, no, the receiver in the area. He goes, talks to the side judge. No, there was no receiver in the area. So that tells me when one guy is consistently against. The only call all game that side judge made in favor was a 1st and goal before that 4th down play at the end of the game, where it almost looked like the Oswego kid might have had the interception at the end of the game, but he called it incomplete and called it hit the ground, which was surprising that he actually made that call. But going back on the video camera on that play, you could hear the thump on the ground, so I think it was the right call, but at the time we thought it was a pick. But, in other words, to wrap this up so we can move on, let's keep it fair. Let's have a fair playoff the rest of the year. We want to see the best teams in the state win because they won. Not because the refs gave it to them, not because of this or that.
And the problem is, and you know what, that's not going to happen. We see it you see it every single year. We have something like this happens where somebody has an agenda. I mean, especially, you talk about especially when we're going to start seeing if JCA and Notre Dame keep going, where they travel a little bit more now because you're 5-6A, you get out of your area a little bit. We saw a couple years ago where JCA and Malin Jones is on the ground for 2 seconds. Kid slides and hits the ball and they call it a fumble. Why? Because you're out in Peoria. Notre Dame, JCA, they're going to travel a little bit more. You get outside your comfort area now. Now you're definitely dealing with some homework because they don't like Chicago area teams.
Yeah, that reminds me when Plainfield North was up at some. I saw a couple calls in that game where it's just like
you get out of here. Well, Plainfield South. We saw Plainfield South years ago.
Yeah, against Morgan Park.
Morgan Park. I mean, that was a Chicago Public League crew. That was a Chicago Public League stadium, and that was a Chicago Public League call game, and so Chicago Public League screw job. So
yeah, so
it's going to happen the rest of it. I'll tell you that right now.
It's not done yet. I mean, everybody's going to have their agenda, but it's one thing to have they should have your agenda. But when you have the agenda, you take it to the next level and start talking about things on the sideline. That takes it way over the top. But that's all we're going to talk about now. Hope you guys enjoy this segment, and we'll be back with our picks for next week.